Hello and welcome. I am Rashan Gidwani, and you are watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the headlines for this hour. Israel launches a large wave of airstrikes on Tehran, targeting what it says is Iranian government infrastructure after Iranian missiles send millions of Israelis into bomb shelters. The strikes come as the US-Iran war enters its sixth day, with thick smoke seen over Tehran. Air raid sirens sound and 2 blasts are heard in Jerusalem after Israel says it detects missiles launched from Iran. The alert is triggered by Israel's warning system across central Israel as air defenses move to intercept the incoming threat. The United Arab Emirates says its defenses intercept 6 Iranian missiles and 131 drones, though 1 missile and 6 drones still landed inside the country. The UK embassy earlier urged residents to shelter in place as regional attacks linked to the Iran-Israel conflict continue. Meanwhile, explosions are reported across the region, including in Qatar and Bahrain, while Azerbaijan says 2 Iranian drones struck its territory. A tanker is also damaged in the northern Gulf, with Iran claiming it hit a US ship as the conflict spreads beyond Iran and Israel. Italy's Defense Minister Guido Crosetto says the US-Israeli strikes on Iran clearly breach international law, in Rome's strongest criticism of the attack so far. The comments come from Italy's right-wing government, which has sought closer ties with US President Donald Trump since he returned to office last year. US President Donald Trump has offered extensive US air cover and support to Iranian Kurdish groups if they launch an offensive against Iran, according to a report by The Washington Post. The outreach to Kurdish leaders in Iran and Iraq comes as Washington seeks to pressure Tehran, with Trump reportedly urging the Kurds to choose between aligning with the US and Israel or with Iran. Polls close in Nepal's general election as voters choose a new parliament nearly 6 months after deadly crackdowns on youth-led protests forced the prime minister to resign. Counting is expected to begin immediately after voting ends, with early trends likely by Friday and full results possibly taking up to a week. Russia and Ukraine are set to exchange a total of 500 prisoners of war over Thursday and Friday, according to a Russian negotiator. The swap is part of ongoing efforts to maintain limited humanitarian contact between the two sides amid the continuing war. And now we have some breaking news. According to Iranian media, missiles fired by the US and Israel have struck 2 schools in Parand, a town southwest of Tehran. Images of the damage showed a devastated classroom, while several nearby residential units were also affected. The attacks come as Tehran's Azadi Stadium, a venue hosting international football matches, was reportedly destroyed in the strikes. Footage posted by Iranian media shows extensive damage and smoke emanating from the stands, with the 12,000-seat stadium now severely damaged. And now joining us is David K. Johnson, author and journalist joining us from New York. Sir, how do you believe that Iran will essentially rebuild all that it's lost so far? Will the regime essentially allocate new leaders to come in and revitalize Iran, or will this remain the state of affairs in Iran?
Well, Iran's going to continue to be a theocracy. That's, I think, without question. And the council right now is in the process of picking who they want to succeed Ayatollah Khamenei. Apparently, one of his sons is a leading candidate to succeed him. But rebuilding occurs after the conflicts cease. Their focus right now is going to be on defensive actions and trying to draw other people into this war as a way to punish Israel and the US for starting this war.
You're currently in New York. I believe that Reza Pahlavi has spoken with news agencies in the US as well. Do you believe that him being the son of the late Shah will be a bridge towards Iran's rebuilding, like I just mentioned. Do you believe he'll be able to essentially organize the government and essentially usher in that new government, like you just said, Ali Khamenei's son, or should he just be excused entirely from this entire conversation? What are your thoughts?
Well, Rashan, the Iranians overthrew Reza Pahlavi's government in 1979 because it was such a brutal dictatorship with the Savak secret police. And so the fact that in any way there's serious discussion of bringing a member of that family back into the government if it's overthrown, which it hasn't been yet, but if it is really very surprising. It tells you that people will go for often familiarity of a name without thinking through the consequences of that. But I don't see any indication that this regime is going to collapse. It is not stable. If you have to kill thousands of your own citizens demonstrating in the streets, you're not a stable regime. But the groundwork that would need to be laid for a popular uprising in a country where the state has a monopoly on violence, the state controls the guns, and there is no coordination among those trying to get the regime to change, hasn't been done by the US or Israel. So I think it's highly unlikely in the short term, at least, that we will see the theocracy collapse.
Please stay with us, sir. We'll be right back with you. Next up, Iran's military has confirmed a drone attack on a U.S. military site in Kuwait. The strike targeted Camp Udari, a key U.S. facility located in northwestern Kuwait. This military installation, now known as Camp Buehring, has been the site of previous U.S. military operations in the region. Details about damage or casualties remain unclear as the situation develops. Joining us live again is David K. Johnston, author and journalist, live from New York. Sir, New York in itself is essentially quite a multi-ethnic city. With the Texas shooting that just happened recently, there was a man that wore an Iranian shirt, walked into a bar, I believe. I saw some footage of that, and shot some people dead. How do you believe that this news, this is pretty large news, that a U.S. base in Kuwait was attacked? What are the ripple effects like in New York and for the rest of the U.S.? Do you believe this will essentially lead to distress in the U.S. between different ethnic groups or civilians and communities in general? What are your thoughts?
Well, whenever we have some kind of a conflict, you see reactions that are based on bigotry and prejudice. The first person murdered after 9/11, for example, was a Sikh by someone who didn't know the difference between a Sikh and an Arab. So the group of people who are unsophisticated and uneducated are often going to act in awful and terrible ways, especially because we have so many guns in the U.S. and such loose rules on having them in public, either open carry or concealed carry. But the clear reaction of a majority of Americans in the snap polls that have been done is opposition to this. It's causing Trump problems with his MAGA base because he ran for office 3 times saying he would be the president of peace, there would be no more wars, and now he's set off on one. And amazingly, yesterday he said that he did so because he had a feeling that Iran was going to attack the U.S. That's consistent with Trump testifying under oath that his net worth was based not on financial numbers on assets and liabilities, but on his feelings about how much he was worth. This is very dangerous territory. It is indicative not of careful, thoughtful calculation, but instead of Donald Trump's mental illness influencing the nature of American military action.
Discussing President Donald Trump almost seems like we're opening up a can of worms. I think the real question is, do you believe that Iran has the capabilities for their missiles to attack the U.S.? Do you have any intel on that whatsoever? Please.
Oh, the U.S. government acknowledges that the Iran does not have intercontinental ballistic missiles. It does not have nuclear weapons. And let's remember, Donald Trump told us last year he had obliterated the capacity of the Iranian government to make nuclear weapons. They don't have a nuclear weapon. Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying for way back to when neither of us had gray hair that Iran was just weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. It's never happened, and the Ayatollahs whether you trust them or not, their public statement is that nuclear weapons are unholy and they will not make nuclear weapons. Truth is always the first casualty in a war, but this notion that the U.S. faced some threat from an Iranian attack, no. Military bases of the U.S., absolutely, if they're in the Middle East, but Iran has no capacity to deliver any kind of attack on the U.S.
Please stay with us, sir. We'll be right back with you. Next up, Iran has issued a warning to European countries that they will pay a price if they fail to speak out against the U.S. and Israel's attacks on Iran. The country's foreign ministry said European nations must take a clear stance or face consequences. This warning comes as EU countries have urged restraint and call for international law to be respected in the midst of the escalating conflict. As the conflict continues to escalate, Iran's warnings to European countries signal the growing tensions between the West and the Islamic Republic. The global community remains on edge, with the impact of the war extending beyond the Middle East. The EU's response to Iran's demands will play a crucial role in shaping the future of the region and the international order. Joining us live again now from New York is David K. Johnston, author and journalist. Sir, I asked you about the capabilities of Iran to attack the U.S. What do you believe the capabilities of Iran's ballistic missiles to attack the EU are? Please.
Well, the Iranians have missiles that could reach parts of Europe, but all they can do is harry Europe. And the analogy I would make is when Sinn Féin was trying to, by warfare, force the British out of Northern Ireland and make the island a single government. They went to London and set off a bomb in Harrods and some other places. They were able to harry the British, but that's all. They had no possibility of turning over that government. And the same thing here with Iran. Iran is trying to get Sunni majority governments to be disrupted because Shia minorities in their countries are unhappy about the killing of the Ayatollah, who they regard as a hero. And by threatening European countries, which they can only do in incredibly limited ways, they're trying to divide Israel and the U.S. from the rest of Europe. And we've seen different approaches to this. The Scandinavians have been very clear, we're having nothing to do with this. Prime Minister Starmer in the United Kingdom has taken a very legalistic approach to what we're just defending ourselves. France and Germany have been much stronger. We're not going to cooperate in this. But it's in the interests of the Tehran regime to try and sow discord among the EU nations and the NATO members.
Please stay with us, sir. We'll be right back with you. We have some breaking news coming in now. Iran's army has reported a drone attack on a U.S. military site in Erbil, Iraqi Kurdistan. The strike targeted the headquarters of U.S. forces in the region. The attack was carried out by the Army's ground forces using drones. Details on damage or casualties remain unclear as the situation continues to unfold. Joining us live again from New York is David K. Johnston, author and journalist. Sir, do you believe that the U.S. will suffer from their involvement or essentially initiation of these surprise attacks that happened on Saturday and their ongoing war with Iran? What do you believe how do you believe the U.S. will stand in time to come as far as their reputation to the rest of the world is concerned? Please.
Claims everybody now respects the United States, and that's not what the facts show. They show that there's revulsion at what's going on. By constantly attacking our allies, Trump has weakened relationships. Australia, the #1 lapdog ally of the United States since World War II, is warming up to Beijing. Canada just made a big trade deal with Beijing, infuriating Trump. And overall, the Chinese are working very hard to strengthen their economic and trade ties with Europe. So the U.S. is absolutely being damaged by Trump's administration, and he's doing things I've known and covered him since the late 80s that I warned 15 years ago Trump would do because he is appallingly ignorant. He's a con artist, and he claims he's the world's greatest expert on 22 different subjects, which is absurd on its face. and is subjects in which his own public statements show that he doesn't know anything about them at all. So he's damaging the U.S. very seriously, but many of his MAGA base believe that his tough guy act is beneficial. The problem that's happening in his MAGA base is he promised no more wars, and now he's gone and engaged in a war of choice for reasons that keep changing. There are at least 4 different explanations put forth for attacking Iran, and that's troubling many people in his MAGA base who did not want to see more of their sons and daughters killed overseas, especially in the Middle East.
Thank you so much for your insight, sir. Much appreciated. Next up, Iranian forces have initiated an operation against Kurdish groups in Iraq's semi-autonomous region, while also commencing their 19th wave of missile and drone strikes on Israeli and U.S. assets in the Middle East. This marks the 6th day of a regional war that has involved much of the region. According to reports, the Iranian military has been targeting anti-Iran separatist forces. Iran's intelligence ministry has confirmed that it has targeted posts of separatist groups who intended to enter through western borders. The ministry has added that they have sustained heavy losses. And joining us now live is Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, former Indian diplomat, live from New Delhi. Sir, when I share stories like this, the first thing that comes to my mind is, how do you believe that Iran is so sure that they're essentially targeting anti-Iran groups? What intel do you have, or in your experience, do you believe that the military has the capabilities to single out these individuals? From what I understand, the world is essentially looking for a new world order. But at this rate, it baffles me that the military is able to single out these certain individuals. What intel do you have on how this is possible?
Good question. Thank you. Look, Kurds are world's single most community without a nation. This is because they are separated into 5 different nationalities: Syria, Turkey, Iraq, Iran, and some in Armenia as well. Now, they have always had aspirations to have a state of their own. After the First World War, they were promised such a state. But then the Allies powers reneged on that promise. Since then, there have been various attempts at various quarters. And now there are some indications that alliance of United States and Israel are planning to use the Kurdish sentiments or aspirations for nationhood to take root in northern Iran. And to that end, they have bombed certain assets in the Iranian Kurdistan, ensuring that the central control from Tehran of that region becomes weaker. Then there are Kurdish rebels rebelling against Iran, located in Iraqi Kurdistan, which are being supported. And Iranians are trying to preempt by attacking such groups in Iraqi Kurdistan. So that's the background to it. And personalities there are not too difficult to find, because Kurds are dispersed people, and they are divided among themselves. So there are pro-Iran Kurds and pro-Iraq Kurds, pro-Turkey Kurds, anti-Turkey Kurds, and so on. Now, having said this, I would also like to point out that the chances of United States gingering up rebellion against Tehran in Iraqi Kurdistan are scant. This is because only 2 months ago, Uh, Americans have abandoned Syrian Kurds to Damascus after backing them up for nearly 10 years when they were their allies against ISIS that was running right in northeastern Syria and northern Iraq, bordering it. So when they were useful to them, Americans armed, trained, and supported the Syrian Kurds. But when Assad fell and an Islamic militant group took over, the Tahrir-e-Shams took over Damascus, the equation changed, and now they are the preferred ones. And SDF, Self-Defense Force of Kurds, is no longer favorites of Washington. So with that kind of short shift, I would doubt if Iranian Kurds, who have enjoyed most autonomy among all Kurdish nationalities all over 5 countries, are, to my mind, unlikely to fall for this kind of scheme. Thank you.
Sir, please stay with us. We'll be right back with you. Next up, Russia and Ukraine have announced a major prisoner exchange with 500 prisoners of war to be swapped over 2 days. Russia and Ukraine have already exchanged 200 prisoners from each side today. This is part of the Geneva Agreements and aims to help alleviate the humanitarian crisis amid the ongoing conflict. Russian presidential aide Vladimir Medinsky confirmed the swap, stating it was a significant step in the ongoing efforts to facilitate exchanges, despite the lack of progress towards a peace deal. Joining us again is Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, former Indian diplomat, joining us live from New Delhi. Sir, to what extent do you believe that this exchange is essentially a reaction to the growing tension in the Middle East, that Russia and Ukraine are essentially trying to find a way to find some peace? Or do you believe that this is just routine due to the Geneva Agreements?
It's neither. In fact, it's very interesting that this exchange was facilitated by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who is one of the 2 country heads that enjoy good ties with Mr. Putin and are still in NATO as well as European Union. Mr. Orban faces a parliamentary election in the near future where he is trailing, and he would like to recoup his popularity. And to that end, he has asked Mr. Putin in a phone call 3 days ago to help Hungarian minority citizens of Ukraine who are in Russian prisons as a prisoner of war to be released. This would obviously help him to get more nationalists in Hungary to his cause. And he claims to be ultra-nationalist as far as Hungarian politics is concerned. So Mr. Putin wants to oblige and help his one of his rare friends in European Union who faces an uphill election. So he has decided to grant him the wish, and 200 POWs were released today, an exchange between Ukraine, 200 each from Ukrainian side to Russia and Russian side to Ukraine, and 300 more are coming tomorrow. Ukraine, on the other hand, is short of manpower, and there is clamor for the prisoners of war in Russian hands, the children of Ukraine in Russian hands, and Mr. Zelensky would like that to happen for his own reasons. So he would have no difficulty in agreeing to such an exchange. So that's the background. Of course, what you said about Middle East war is also pertinent. That war has stolen the thunder out of Ukraine-Russia war, which has receded from headlines. So to get back to headlines, I think both sides are trying to do this. That's an added advantage. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice evening. Next up, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has made it clear that he stands by his praise for U.S. leadership, including support worked with President Trump, despite facing criticism from some European quarters. He has emphasized that strong transatlantic ties are essential for European security and that the United States remains a central guarantor of collective defense. Let's listen in to what he has shared on this.
We need it at 5%, but I would doubt it. Without President Trump, we would have reached it. We would have reached it. And then him now taking this decisive action to take out this capability of Iran to pose a threat as an exporter of terrorism and chaos to the Middle East, to Europe, to the world. I think if a president of a country is providing that type of leadership, some praise is.
On the question of French President Macron's recent nuclear deterrence speech, Rutte said it did not arise out of any doubts about U.S. or NATO commitment. Instead, he described Macron's comments as adding to a broader discussion on Europe's defense capabilities while underlying the importance of allies working together. Let's listen in to what he has shared on this topic.
Yes, I spoke with him on Sunday on the phone, and so before the speech, and I said that I really welcome what he is doing here, because it is opening up a conversation within NATO, which we need to have in NATO to discuss how we can add this extra complexity, not for NATO, of course, but for the Russians. It will make it more complex for them to understand exactly how they have to perceive our deterrence and defense. So it will add to our deterrence and defense in that sense. And I think that's very important. And I know that already 7 or 8 NATO allies have started conversations now with the French. We will continue to do that also as NATO. So I really welcome this. It is leveraging more what France is doing. However, and we all agree on this, the ultimate supreme guarantor of our way of life, the fact that we have free media, free press, that we have elections, that we have our way of life regained, so hard fought after the Second World War, is in the end the United States nuclear umbrella.
The alliance remains focused on balancing support for Ukraine, addressing emerging threats and maintaining unity amid global security challenges. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.